Hi, my name is Justin and I'll be presenting our work, Can Language Model Moderators Improve the Health of Online Discourse? This is a joint effort with my wonderful collaborators from USC's Viterbi School of Engineering and Information Sciences Institute. First, let's lay out why we need moderators for healthy online discourse. We've seen societal polarization worsen over the recent years as it has been bolstered by social media algorithms amplifying biases and the proliferation of fake news and bots. Generative AI will further accelerate the increase in the amount of online content, so effective moderation strategies is more important now than ever. The most prevalent approach to moderation is oversimplistic. Let's look at an example conversation from Reddit discussing the relationship between beauty and health. User A becomes agitated and aggressively attacks user B for thinking that being poor contributes to bad health. Given that this comment has been flagged for moderation, most platforms take two approaches. One is to delete the comment, and the other is to ban the user if a similar offense has been repeatedly made. Either way, this kind of silencing can push user A to seek an echo chamber that shares the same thoughts, further exacerbating social polarization. This prevents the opportunity to reconcile differences in opinions in a constructive way. The alternative to these iron-fisted approaches is conversational moderation, where a moderator intervenes in the conversation with guidance specific to this current conversation to encourage more civic discourse. The moderator may say something that expresses empathy for user A's frustration, yet suggests a response that is more grounded on evidence rather than strong emotions. This can help user A tone down heightened emotions and continue the discussion in a more constructive way. While this is a better approach to moderation, repeatedly dealing with toxic behavior and suggesting context-specific alternative behavior can get quickly taxing. So this approach is not very scalable. But the rise of general-purpose LLMs in recent years offers some hope. As much as they can be harmful for the quality of online content, large language models present a unique opportunity to improve the online experience if they can be leveraged to assist human moderators by automatically suggesting responses. This can significantly relieve their burden of developing their own response for each of the numerous cases that they need to handle. So given this opportune landscape, we seek to answer two research questions that shape our work. First is answering how should we evaluate language model moderators as assistants that can scale up the efforts of human moderators. Once we establish the how, we want to know, can language model moderators provide specific and fair feedback to make online users more cooperative and respectful? So let's dive into the first question, how should we evaluate conversational moderation effectiveness? We find our answers on how to measure moderation effectiveness from moderation literature. Grimmelman established that the most important objectives of moderation is making online users more cooperative and respectful of one another. In addition, Kiesler et al. Found that when moderators provide specific and fair feedback, users are more likely to accept the moderation event, such as having their comments deleted or being suggested an alternative course of action. So, in our work, we evaluate language models across these four dimensions. We want to value for these dimensions while fulfilling certain criteria. First is that the study should be realistic, in that it studies the moderators under realistic contexts so that the study results are generalizable to the real world. Second is that our methodology should be safe in that it does not harm any real unwitting users. Lastly, it should be well controlled so that we isolate and measure the effectiveness of the moderator. This means removing other potential confounding factors as best as possible to solely focus on the moderator's role for measuring the evaluation criteria. Building on the evaluation dimensions and design criteria, we propose our evaluation methodology. First, we extract conversations that contain controversial comments from Reddit. We use the controversial flair provided by Reddit's API, and then further filter using GPT-4. This fulfills the realistic criteria where we start with a real controversial conversation to replicate highly charged conversations. Then, we take these conversations and have them continued between a human participant that acts as the moderator user and our moderator bots. This fulfills the criteria of safety, as this is real users, and only work with human participants that are aware of the task and provide consent ahead of time. After the participant and the moderator completes the conversations after a few turns, an evaluator answers a series of survey questions about the evaluation dimensions. If the evaluator is the same as the conversation participant, then it is a first-person point of view evaluation. If not, it is a third-person point of view evaluation. This distinction lets us study the moderator's effect on the moderator user's perceived influence of the moderator, as opposed to the perceived effect on the moderator user in the perspective of the bystanders. We want to study both because they are all important stakeholders in online communities. Ultimately, we see language models recommending responses to human moderators rather than directly intervening as moderators due to safety concerns. But we intentionally choose our approach of directly interacting with moderator bots in the dyadic setting to focus on the usefulness of the moderator bots' responses themselves. This lets us remove confounding factors such as variances in how human moderators choose to use the moderator bot's responses and the decision of when to moderate. Now that we've established our evaluation methodology, let's answer the question of, can language model moderators make online users more cooperative and respectful? We evaluate each moderator by taking 20 seed conversations from Reddit, where each conversation is then continued with 3 human participants. Each conversation is scored on a Likert scale of 0 to 4 for each survey dimension. The models that we study are mainly of 2 types. One is prosocial dialogue models, which are trained to exhibit prosocial behavior, and they are based on the T5 model. The Cosmo XL model directly generates prosocial responses, while the Canary plus Cosmo XL model takes a 2-step approach, first generating the prosocial rules of thumb, and then generating the response. They're not explicitly trained to perform moderation, but there are many similarities between prosocial behavior and moderator suggestions, which make them a viable candidate for moderation. The other is GPT-based prompt models, where we take GPT-4 and combine it with various prompts to tweak its behavior. The baseline model is given a simple prompt along the lines of, "You are a moderator." The nonviolent communication model uses principles from nonviolent communication, which is a method of conflict resolution and a prosocial dialogue that emphasizes empathy. The Socratic dialogue model uses techniques for cognitive behavior therapy that encourages self-reflection and grounding statements to supporting evidence. We developed the specific prompts to embody these behavior with self-chat, where a bot chats with itself taking turns as both the moderator and moderated user. We manually examine the completed conversation and refine the prompt until it reliably exhibits the intended behavior without being repetitive over multiple turns. This slide showcases an example response from each of our baselines. The prosocial dialogue models on the left mostly respond without taking on the role of moderator, and sometimes it may even say inappropriate things like saying the user's opinion is ignorant. The GPT-based models, on the other hand, do a bit better as moderators. The baseline model's response is mostly generic, and the nonviolent communication model and Socratic dialogue model are able to provide more specific responses that are either empathetic or reflective. Finally, the results. So the first-person POV evaluation is where the evaluator is the moderator user, and it measures how the moderator user think of their experience of being moderated. We can immediately see from this figure that the GPT-based models largely outperform the prosocial dialogue models in all dimensions. And among the GPT-based models, Socratic dialogue model performs the best on all dimensions, doing especially well in providing specific and fair feedback. However, even the Socratic model struggles in making the user more cooperative and respectful. When we have evaluators that are not the participants that continue the conversation, we get third-person POV evaluation results, which measure how the observers of the conversation perceive the effect of the moderator on the moderated user. The figure on the far right shows that while these third-person evaluators provide similar scores for how specific and fair the moderators were, they provided lower scores for how effective they were in making the moderated users more cooperative and respectful. This is quite interesting, and while the ranking of the models from the first-person POV are roughly the same, this shows that it is important to use the same POV when making head-to-head comparisons for a fair comparison. Lastly, we're curious whether we can use GPT-4 as a judge to even further facilitate this evaluation process to more rapidly develop better moderator bots and do without human evaluation, which can be costly and also time-consuming. Results show that its scores are similar to those of third-person POV results, but it tends to be a lot more generous. especially for the prosocial dialogue models that scored very low in human evaluations. More importantly, the relative performance between models are not the same as that based on human evaluation, meaning that the resulting ranking is different. So, automatic evaluation with GPT-4 is not a reliable substitute for human evaluation for the time being. In summary, we established a framework for how to evaluate conversational moderation in a realistic, safe, and controlled manner. We used our framework to study how language model-based moderators perform in conversational moderation and found prompted LLMs show promise for this task, but need to improve on making users more cooperative and respectful. The next steps to build on our work is to study conversational moderation in an even more realistic setting and taking a more holistic approach to evaluation while developing more sophisticated and contextualized moderation behavior. This means thinking beyond dyadic conversations, deploying moderators to online platforms. Also, providing a moderation response involves multiple skills, such as fact-checking and deciding when to intervene, so integrating them into a single evaluation would make the evaluation more realistic. Moderators should also be able to take into account each online community's distinct standards, so may be more tolerant of certain behaviors, such as the use of profanity. So with that, that's a wrap. Thank you for your time. Please visit our project page to learn more about our work, which you can access by using the QR code on the right or using the URL presented here.